Every spring, Americans spend over $500 million doing the exact same thing. Pulling this out of the ground. Spraying it. Bagging it. Throwing it away. And the plant just keeps coming back. Because it's supposed to. Nature doesn't make mistakes. We do. What I'm about to show you is something that Appalachian grandmothers knew. That Cherokee healers used. That Depression-era families depended on to stay healthy when there was no doctor for 40 miles. And right now, today, it is probably growing 6 feet from your back door. Stay with me. Because by the end of this video, you are never going to look at your yard the same way again. The plant is called plantain. Not the banana. The weed. Plantago major. Common plantain. Broadleaf plantain. You know it. That low, flat rosette of leaves with the thick parallel veins running straight down the blade. The one that grows in every driveway crack, every lawn, every dirt path on every homestead from Kentucky to Oregon. It doesn't need rich soil. It doesn't need your help. It grows where the ground is hard and compacted, and that is not an accident. That is a signal. This plant is a first responder. It shows up where the soil is wounded. Old Appalachian farmers called it nature's bandage. And they meant that literally, for the soil and for the body. Here's what most people don't know. Plantain is not native to America. It came over with European settlers in the 1600s. And the Native Americans, who noticed that it seemed to follow the white man's footsteps wherever he went, called it white man's footprint. Think about that for a second. A plant that crossed an ocean, adapted to an entirely new continent, and spread to every single state in the country. That's not a weed. That's a survivor. In the mountains of eastern Kentucky, western North Carolina and rural Tennessee, places where the nearest hospital might be a 2-hour drive on a dirt road, plantain was standard medicine. Every homesteader knew 3 uses. First, the poultice. You chew a fresh leaf, or mash it, and press it directly onto a bee sting, a splinter wound, a fire ant bite. The swelling goes down. The pain fades. Within minutes. This wasn't folklore. This was Tuesday afternoon on a working farm. Second, the tea. Dried plantain leaves steeped in hot water were used for coughs, for sore throats, for respiratory problems. All winter long, from November to March, when cold and flu season hit those mountain communities hard. Third, and this is the part most people never heard about, they didn't just use plantain. They kept it growing on purpose. In the garden. Between rows. Along the fence lines. Because the old farmers noticed something. Fields where plantain was allowed to grow in patches had fewer pest problems. Soil stayed looser. Water absorbed better after rain. They didn't have the science to explain it. They had 200 years of observation. And that observation was right. Here's where it gets interesting. Modern research has started catching up to what those Appalachian farmers already knew. Plantain leaves contain aucubin, a compound with documented anti-inflammatory properties. They contain allantoin, which promotes cell regeneration and tissue repair. They contain mucilage, which coats and soothes irritated tissue in the throat and digestive tract. A study published in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology documented the traditional use of Plantago major across multiple cultures on 4 continents, and found consistent patterns of use for wound healing, respiratory support and digestive health. 4 continents. Independent cultures. Same plant. Same uses. That is not coincidence. That is chemistry. And the soil part? Modern agroecology research has confirmed that plantain's deep taproot, which can go 12 inches down, genuinely breaks up compacted soil layers. It pulls up minerals from deep in the ground and deposits them in its leaves. When those leaves die and decompose, those minerals go back into the topsoil. Farmers call plants that do this dynamic accumulators. The Appalachian farmers didn't know that term. But they knew the result. Now let's get practical. Because this is the part that matters. Identification. Broadleaf plantain grows as a flat rosette close to the ground. Leaves are oval, 2 to 7 inches long, with 5 to 7 parallel veins that run the length of the leaf. The veins are tough. If you tear a leaf slowly, you'll see those veins stretch and pull like tiny strings. That's your confirmation. It also sends up a narrow flower spike, 4 to 12 inches tall, with tiny brownish flowers packed tight along the stem. You'll find it in lawns, paths, garden edges, gravel driveways, and disturbed soil. Every single U.S. state. Every USDA hardiness zone. Harvesting. Always harvest the youngest, freshest leaves, the ones in the center of the rosette. These are most tender and most potent. Avoid harvesting from roadsides, areas treated with herbicides, or anywhere near heavy traffic. If you're not sure, don't harvest. The best leaves come from your own yard, your own garden edge, where you know the soil is clean. 3 ways to use it today. The poultice, pick a fresh leaf. Chew it or crush it between clean fingers until it's a rough paste. Apply directly to a sting, bite, or minor cut. Hold for 10 to 15 minutes. This is the oldest field remedy on the American homestead. The tea, dry clean leaves on a screen in a shaded, ventilated space for 5 to 7 days, or in a low oven at 95 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 hours. Store in a glass jar. Steep 1 tablespoon per cup of hot water for 10 minutes. Strain and drink. Good for coughs, sore throats, and as a mild digestive tonic. The salve, infuse dried plantain leaves in olive oil for 4 to 6 weeks in a warm spot, or heat gently in a double boiler for 3 hours on low. Strain the oil. Melt in a small amount of beeswax, about 1 ounce of wax per cup of oil. Pour into small tins or jars. Let set. This salve keeps for up to a year and works on dry skin, minor burns, insect bites and cracked hands. Old Appalachian families made this every fall. It sat on the kitchen shelf all winter. Now here's the part I want you to sit with for a minute. The global herbicide market is worth over $30 billion a year. Roundup alone, glyphosate, generates billions in revenue specifically targeting broadleaf plants. Plants like plantain. There's no conspiracy here. No secret meeting in a dark room. Just economics. A plant that grows for free, heals common ailments, improves your soil, and asks absolutely nothing from you in return. That plant has no place in a system built on selling you products. So it gets classified as a weed. Gets added to herbicide labels. Gets pulled from cultural memory, one generation at a time. Your grandparents probably knew what plantain was. Your parents maybe heard the word. You might be watching this video and realizing you've been poisoning it every spring for 20 years. That's not your fault. That's the system working exactly as designed. But you know now. Here's the part most YouTube videos never tell you. Don't just use plantain. Grow it deliberately. Allow a few plantain plants to establish in the borders of your vegetable garden. Between rows of tomatoes. Along the edge of your herb bed. Here's what that does. The deep taproot breaks compaction between watering cycles. The broad leaves shade the soil surface, reducing moisture loss in summer heat. The decaying leaves feed the topsoil with minerals the plant pulled from deep underground. And the flowers attract beneficial insects, the ones that eat aphids and other garden pests. This is what the old Appalachian farmers were doing when they left plantain in their gardens. They didn't call it companion planting. They called it common sense. You want healthy tomatoes in Tennessee in August? Stop pulling the plantain. Look down at your yard after this video. If you see that flat rosette of broad leaves, those parallel veins, that tough stem, don't reach for the spray bottle. Reach for the knowledge instead. Your grandparents' generation didn't have a $60 tube of antibiotic ointment in the medicine cabinet. They had a yard. And they knew how to read it. That knowledge didn't disappear. It just got quiet. This channel is here to make it loud again. Next video, we're going to talk about another plant that old southern homesteaders used to keep in a jar by the stove. Something you've probably stepped over 100 times. And it's worth knowing about before winter hits. Stay close. Bonus tip, the secret. Plantain seeds, the tiny seeds on that flower spike, are close relatives of psyllium husk, the fiber supplement sold in every pharmacy for $12 a bottle. Old herbalists collected those seeds, dried them, and used them as a digestive fiber source. One mature plantain plant produces thousands of seeds. Completely free. Completely ignored. Common mistake. People harvest plantain from the roadside or from their lawn without checking for herbicide treatment history. Even organic-looking plantain can carry glyphosate residue if a neighbor sprayed nearby or if the lawn was treated in previous seasons. Always know your ground before you harvest. Start by growing your own from a verified clean patch, let it go one full season untreated, then harvest confidently.